Welcome to episode 216 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I am so excited. My guest this week is Mike Potter, the organizer of MacStock for Mac Eyes Only. It's great to see you, Mike. Thanks for being here.
Well, you're awfully excited to have me on your show, Dave, but I always enjoy being on your show.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, and we can't not say how great things it is when Jeff is here. So Jeff Gamet, so glad you're here as well.
You are far too generous, and thank you for letting me come back yet again, even though you know what to expect.
That's right. So I got a pretty full show this week. We got a lot of news stories. Going to be talking about beta. Got a couple other topics. 1Password's going to be up there. We might even sneak in a little bit of a discussion about MacStock, and we'll also have a little bit of a tease. There's going to be maybe a giveaway towards the end of the show here, because we are going to have 2 episodes this week. I did an interview with the developer of Mimir, the podcast app, Grant Davis, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So, but let's just go ahead and jump right into the news. There was a fair amount of it this week, and first story is, and I think this is what the story that actually inspired Jeff to do a talk about, is how a Phoenix record store owner set the audiophile world on fire. And MOFi claimed its expensive reissues with purely analog repercussions. It has been deceiving its customer base for years. And Mike Esposito, still won't say how he gave the tip about the records. He went public about this explosive claim. The claim was on his YouTube channel. He just said that MOFi, which is Mobile Fidelity, the company in California that prides itself on using original master tapes for pricier reissues, has actually been using digital files in its production chain. In the world of audiophiles, it's where prevalence is everything, and the quest to get as close to the sound of the album's original recording as possible, digital is considered almost unholy. Jeff, I know you were super excited about this. What do you think of this? I think this is crazy and exciting. I don't know. It's kind of there's a lot of emotion here.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I could turn this part into probably a 3-hour topic. And then there's still more. Okay, so first, MOFi has been making incredible albums.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the best audio fidelity in vinyl that you can get. So it just breaks my heart that they were being deceptive about how they were producing these. Now, I can get the whole thing about, well, audiophiles, it's all about analog and digital is bad. It's like ear poison. And I have to have my analog LPs. And so if you tell them, hey, there's digital in the process, then I can see where they'd be afraid that they would lose their customer base.
Yep.
The problem is that they were doing a really good job of making albums, but being deceptive about part of their process. And had they been transparent about the process all along, we wouldn't be here where we are today. At the same time, they would not have many of the customers that they have had up to this point, because there's a lot of people that have that anti-digital thing. Here's the rub. You've been listening to digital all along. Yeah. That's how it works. The only way for you to have a true analog recording is to get like a gramophone and put a wax cylinder on it and talk into the big cone, and the vibrations then are etched onto the wax cylinder, and that's an analog recording. Once you start doing what we do for recordings, going back to, well, since we've been issuing mass recordings, really, it's a digital process, because once you put that microphone in the mix, it's now digital. And yes, we can have the whole philosophical debate about, yeah, but we're going to tape and it's not being stored on a hard drive, and those digital files, they just sound crap on CD and blah 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 blah. Master for the medium, and then you can have amazing stuff. If you look at the CDs that initially came out, and cut me off at any time, it's fine, I won't be offended. If you look at the CDs that were initially rolled out back when CD players became a thing, everyone was like, oh, this is going to be amazing, this digital quality. And we would listen to albums and we're like, that's not nearly as good as they were promising. The problem is they took a master that was created for vinyl and then just dumped it onto a disc, onto a CD. Instead of going
the heck
back,
out of it.
Yeah. And
right.
Yes. Yeah. So what they needed to do is go back to the original recordings, those original tapes, which, by the way, that's electricity going through and making magnetic fields that then get stored on tape. That's a form of digital. Then work with those original tapes and remaster that for a CD. And holy crap, you can get something that sounds so much better than what you can get from vinyl. And yes, you can have the richness in it and all that. The problem is when you do the compression and you do it wrong, you just flatten the file. It's not rich audio anymore, rich sounding audio. Mm-hmm. So the MOFi people, they are fracking wizards at taking those original masters and turning them into beautiful albums that sound better than the original pressings. And in the process, they've just pissed off a lot of people and ruined their own reputation. I can keep going on if you want, but I should probably stop because you have other topics.
Yeah. I'll see it. Check real quick, Mike, if you had any other thoughts on this before we move on.
I do have a few thoughts. I mean, I absolutely understand the anti-digital argument. I get that. I understand. And I think a lot of it does stem back, as Jeff said, back to the early days of CDs. Right. The very first CD I purchased, it really didn't matter that much. It was Elvis Presley. It was his first album, and I purchased that on CD. And if you look at the process of how that was made, the compression didn't affect it that much. But then when you start looking at some of the other albums that I later purchased on CD and Genesis in particular, where there's a lot of nuance to the music, mm-hmm. and you start to miss some of that when you're listening to it on CD and you go back to the album, you're like, oh yeah, that was in there. Mm-hmm. I swear that was in there. And then you listen to the CD again, and you're like, yeah, it's a little like you said, they kind of flatten it from the top and the bottom, and right. And there you go. That's what you get. So I get that. But this MOFi controversy was new to me when I saw the article. So I just kind of read it with fresh eyes. Devil's advocate, small company. They were, as Jeff said, doing the best job they could to preserve the integrity of the original masters, mm-hmm. while also spitting out, I think it said anywhere from 8,000 to 40,000 pressings. They were talking about 40,000 pressings with Thriller. And it was when they announced the 40,000, I think it was 40,000. Am I correct on that? On Thriller. And it was when they announced that where they said, well, wait a minute. How are they going to press that many from original masters without Sony freaking out that they're running all these off?
Yeah. Well, you don't want to destroy the tapes. And if you're running a tape 40,000 times, you're going to have at a minimum degradation.
Yeah.
Right. So they were using a process, a very high quality, high fidelity, a very high quality process of converting the original analog masters to a digital format that retained and, as Jeff said, even enhanced the original recordings in many ways, made them sound better in many ways.
Right.
And so the only thing I want to say about it, and again, this is just reading it with fresh eyes, small company doing the best dang job that they could, is, I think, deceptive is strong. I feel that that's a strong word to apply in the situation.
How about misleading? Would that be better?
It may have been misleading. That might be a little bit better. The process was analog to this high quality digital, then to the pressings, versus analog to the pressings. And I'm being very succinct here in describing it. There's a real nice image or illustrations on the Washington Post article that show the process, and they show and these are actually illustrations that MOFi themselves include with the albums, or included. And I think that's part of the problem, is the original illustration completely left out that digital step.
Mm-hmm.
And now the illustrations they're including show that digital step. They're showing that this is part of the process. So, my question is, okay, let's say that this had not come out. Let's say that, or it came out in a better way than the way this was done. Let's say it came out in a better way, and it sounds like maybe you purchase MOFi albums. Am I correct in that, Jeff?
I have not purchased any myself, because typically by the time I would hear about one,
they're gone.
They're just gone.
They're gone.
And I chose to not actively follow what they're doing, because I can't afford to spend that kind of money on a regular basis. Yeah, I mean, you can spend a fortune on buying MOFi albums.
It reminds me very much of the Criterion Collection movies.
Yeah. It's like Criterion Collection.
Yeah,
but it's music.
So does it sound worse to you? I'm using you in air quotes. Does it sound worse to you now because you know the process, or
Absolutely
does it sound as amazing to you as it did when you first purchased that album and put it on your turntable and listened to it?
I have listened to many MOFi albums over the years, thanks to other people having the time and money to pick a bunch up. And they sound amazing. Just like many properly mastered CDs that I have bought over the years, just like many properly mastered digital audio files that I have listened to. And for me, knowing now that they are absolutely using a straight up digital step as part of the whole process, that doesn't change the audio for me. And my feeling is, people that are like higher end audiophiles than me, and I do not claim to be like a real high end audiophile. I'm just a guy that loves his music and loves the sound and is really interested in everything that goes along with that. I don't think that you'd be able to really tell in a truly blind A/B test. And in I would say in most cases, if you're listening to the MOFi version versus one of the other pressings, you would consistently pick out the MOFi as the better pressing, because they're bonkers good at handling the mastering.
Yeah. So again, I don't mean to downplay the hurt feelings, because I feel as if maybe that's a big part of the controversy.
I think that is a big part of it.
I certainly don't mean to downplay that, and I certainly understand the anger. But I give them a chance. Give them a chance. Yeah. It's a small company doing the best they can. The article even said something to the effect that they didn't even have handlers for the people that they brought in to do this interview. There was no vetting of the person who came in to videotape them talking about the process.
The company owner didn't even know this went down.
The company owner didn't even know it went down until it was too late and he couldn't get there in time. So, small company doing the best they can. They're obviously doing an amazing job. I am not personally familiar with it, but it sounds like they're amazing recordings. They're some of my own albums, or some of my favorite albums, I should say, I would love to hear remastered in this way, because I have heard remasters from the original studios and they're awful.
Yeah, right.
So I would love to hear remasters from MoFi. But again, let's not call it deceptive. Let's call it misleading. I like that.
Okay.
I think that
I can
that's
accept
a better way to put that. Yeah.
Sounds like needs to be a future topic on the show here, and we just focus a little more in the small, sweet, shorts here of news. So,
or let me put it this way: I don't feel it was intentionally deceptive. If it was deceptive, I don't feel it was intentionally deceptive. I just feel it was a step that they maybe didn't feel they had to disclose.
Yeah.
Although they probably should have figured.
Yeah. I think they knew that they should have told people, and I think that they were afraid of what would happen if they said that they were doing the step, even though ultimately it doesn't matter. But for the people who consider themselves hardcore analog only audiophiles, it's that we're digital. I mean, it can shut people down just like that.
Boy, I sure hope I don't hear that all those Criterion Collection DVDs and Blu-rays I got were digital, because I'm just going to be
right.
I'm going to be so mad.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on. No, that was a great discussion here, and I think that might be the topic for another show. Who knows? Because that's a pretty broad subject. And not that I'm really. I saw this article caught my eye because it was I remember putting in here beginning early last week, and I not
really
realizing
interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah, I absolutely, and again, I'm trying to emphasize, I absolutely understand both sides of this.
Yeah.
And I certainly sympathize with those who have spent, as Jeff pointed out, hard-earned money on these albums, and then to find out that perhaps they weren't made in the way that they expected.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Next story here. HBO Max app for iOS is gaining SharePlay, shuffle button, split screen support, and more. The HBO Max app for iPhone and iPad is this week receiving a notable update, which has been quite a while for HBO Max, I must say, that will overhaul the interface and add several new features that will improve the viewing experience on iOS devices. According to the press release that announced the changes, the app was going to have a more intuitive navigation system. Hallelujah. And refined design, performance, and stability improvements, and to bring it in line with the updated HBO Max Apple TV app, which came back in April, which has been pretty good here. US HBO Max users will have an ad-free plan can use SharePlay on the iPhone or iPad to watch HBO content with friends and family over FaceTime and messages in iOS 16 only for messages and apps. Plus, there is now a shuffle button. So this is good news. I mean, I've had lots to talk about this. I talked about a lot of streaming at MacStock and a lot of interest about this. I think the streaming is quite a topic right now. So, what do you think, Mike, on this?
I do not subscribe to HBO Max, so these all sound like really great improvements to it.
Yeah.
And if they were missing before, I wonder why.
Because the HBO app was god awful for like the first year or two.
Apparently it was. Yeah. This sounds like an all new release to me.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe, so unfortunately I don't really have much of an opinion on that.
All right, Jeff, you have any thoughts on this?
Well, first, I was really disappointed when I found out that they're streaming digital files. I really wanted those movies coming over analog. I'm glad they're adding these features, and I will hold back excitement until I see these features in action, because I still have a bad taste in my mouth from how crappy the HBO Max app was. So it's in their court to impress me.
Agree. All right. Next story. Apple Card customer service woes responsible for the Goldman Sachs regulatory probe. We did report that there was a probe against Goldman Sachs, thinking, oh boy, we got a problem with this bank. The popularity of the Apple Card has caused Apple partner Goldman Sachs to struggle and to deal with customer service issues, according to a new report from CNBC. Problems have in part led to an investigation by the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Goldman Sachs was subject to more disputed transactions than it anticipated, with customers seeking chargebacks for products and services. When a customer asks for a chargeback, Goldman Sachs must follow the regulations, and they were failing to do that. That's a problem. In fact, I recall I've disputed a couple, and actually they were both in my favor, so I think they were pretty good. But the Apple Card's become quite the popular card. I mean, they keep giving me credit limit increases, which I must be doing something right, because obviously I've had it for a while and I'm paying my bill on time, and it's like they must like me because I'm buying way too many Apple products, and all my payments on the Apple products with the financing, which is the awesome financing they offer. So, what do you think, Jeff, on this?
This is a problem for companies. Yeah. Let's partner with Apple and then watch what explodes, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because people that are into Apple stuff, they jump on whatever it is.
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of companies are not prepared for that onslaught, that storm that comes as people start using whatever this Apple branded product or service is.
Right.
And I think it bit Goldman Sachs in this case. In the end, it'll be fine. It's all getting worked out.
Like
Goldman Sachs will probably end up with some sort of slap on the wrist as part of the probe, and life will go on. And you're right. If you keep buying stuff from Apple on your Apple Card, your credit limit goes up.
Yeah.
If you if you buy stuff but pay on time, but it's not lots of Apple stuff, your credit limit doesn't go up very fast.
Doesn't go very fast. Oh, it's gone up at least 3 times, and I've had the card since day one. So, that's exactly what you said with the Apple Card. I think everybody was super excited. I was at least, and applied for it the day one and got approved. And we like to take the titanium card and drop it on the table so you can get to hear it clang for you.
Right.
But no, I think it's been very good account and product, and I've been happy with it. You have an Apple Card, Mike?
I do. Yeah. And for the very reason you both mentioned, I needed a new Apple product.
Yeah.
And it was the best way to spread that cost out over 12
it's so
months.
Awesome. I mean, I just bought this MacBook Pro 16-inch to the M1 Pro and spread it out over a year, and I was happy. Granted, I got a nice trade-in from my previous Mac, and so I didn't have as much of a sting when the financing kicked in. But yeah, they make it super easy to do the financing. I mean, I think I did the Apple Watch. You get like 24 months. I still have my Apple Watch. I've already traded in. I'm still finishing paying off because you don't.
The entire process of applying for the card, getting approved, and completing the purchase of the new hardware, I timed it 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
3.5 minutes.
This is crazy.
It's insane how easy they made it. It was and we had just gone through some banking negotiations for our businesses, and that takes weeks. And I went, I don't know about this Apple Card. We just went through all this stuff with the banks, and now I got to go through this with Apple and getting the hardware. 3.5 minutes.
Yeah,
couldn't have made it more slick.
Yeah, my experience is very similar. It was almost an afterthought getting the card. I had gone into the Apple Store to buy something. I don't even remember what it was. And I'm there, and then I realized, oh crap, I completely forgot that the Barclays thing is done and over. And my Barclays card sat in a drawer unless I was going to the Apple Store to buy something. And it sat in the drawer long enough that Barclays had deactivated the card. And so I'm like, oh crap. And whoever's helping me, they said, well, have you applied for an Apple Card yet? And I went, oh, right. So I tapped on wallet, tapped a couple things, and the next thing you know, I'm just Apple Paying with my new Apple Card and buying whatever it was.
Unlike you guys, now I've only had it a few months now. I've not had any credit increases, but what I have noticed is I tend to pay off my purchases as they clear.
Me too.
Because I use it for a lot of business purchases, so I just reimburse myself and then pay off the card. I've been paying them off. Nothing's gone from month to month. There's been no interest accumulation.
Not me either.
My interest rate has gone up twice. Well, my interest rate has gone up twice on it.
That's
since I had it.
The prime rate's going on right now.
It's because of the prime rate, but no. There we go. No credit limit increase, but we're happy to raise that interest rate on you.
Yeah, well, that's why
it's still a really good interest rate, by the way. It's still incredibly good compared to any other credit card that's in my wallet.
Yeah,
it's about half.
Wow. All right, and then last story. I always like bringing in the Patently Apple story into play here. This is from Patently Apple. Apple apparently filed a new patent for their future Apple Pencil, the Apple Pencil 3, they think. It's possibly going to have a sliding and rolling touch gestures, controls, and more. They jump right into the heart of the patent. It shows an illustration of what's it going to have as far as the different ways you're going to be able to use the pencil, and then showing the finger going direction up and down, or up and down, or side to side, and same thing at the back of the pencil. Glad to see that Apple is finally looking to do something with update the pencils. I think the Pencil 2 hasn't been updated in quite a long time, and then they still offer the first gen pencil, which is still kind of crazy at this point, because there's still a lot of those iPads out there that can only work with the first gen of the pencil. But Jeff, what do you think? I think this is exciting. I'm glad to see some new things coming with the Apple Pencil.
Well, all right. First off, and I'm saying this for everyone because I know you know this, but there might be some people out there that don't.
Thanks.
When we see patent filings like this is not a proof that Apple's going to release a product.
Right.
It's proof that Apple wants to protect features from competitors. Right. And in some cases, those features do show up in future products. And sometimes Apple will obfuscate what they're doing by showing some patent technology, and they'll, in the patent, show it on a device other than where it's going to show up. So we need to keep all of that in mind. Right. That said, Apple Pencil, I would love to see more features in it. And the big glaring missing thing is being able to spin it upside down, and the blunt end becomes an eraser.
Yeah, exactly. This is not an eraser.
So if you can flip it over and use the blunt end for whatever, then you need to have gesture support at that end too. Right. So to me, not having that and then not having gestures at both ends of the pencil is an omission that should be addressed with an upcoming Apple Pencil release.
Yep. Any thoughts on that, Mike?
No, it just occurred to me as Jeff was saying that I wonder if there are any other patents that are preventing Apple from doing that. Might there be something that Wacom has or someone else has with the eraser end of the pencil that might be prevented? I don't know. I don't know, but it just occurred to me as he was saying that. Why wouldn't Apple have done that yet?
Yeah, good question. All right, that's the news for this week. A couple things I want to talk about before we move to topics. If you probably aren't going to notice, if you're listening to this already, there's 2 episodes that got released this week. Episode 215 was a great interview I had with Grant Davis, who's the developer of the Memir podcast app, and we had a great discussion. Go back in your podcast feeds and take a listen to that. And I think it was a lot of fun. And a lot of great information as well. It's a really great app. Grant was kind enough to offer us some some free 1-year subscriptions to their premium accounts, his premium account. So you get access to all the premium features, which you can go in the show notes in episode 215 and take a look at what that has to offer. But what I'm going to do is I want to give one away for this week. And for those of you listening to this show, if you could send an email to feedback@intouchwithios.com. We did talk about some of the features, the future features that Grant wants to add to the Mimir app, because it was a lot to take on as far as a podcast app goes. And there was at least 2 features we mentioned. If you send me an email, feedback@intouchwithios.com, and tell me one of them, I will send you a coupon code for the App Store to be able to get a 1-year free subscription for Mimir and on the app.
Wow,
So,
that's really cool.
yeah, so we got a couple extra ones. I'm going to kind of give them away over the next couple weeks, and don't want to give them all away at once. And come, so go watch and listen to episode 215, and send us an email, and maybe you get a free subscription. So,
well, that's really awesome. I'm glad I turned you on to that at MaxTalk, Dave, because it is an incredible app.
It is,
and
Grant's a great guy too.
I want more and more people to use it, because it is a wonderful podcasting experience, especially if you're used to the iTunes way of doing it.
Yep.
And a couple things I'm missing. I actually need to send him an email and and talk about a couple things that I feel are missing in the app.
He's very receptive.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And one of the things I like best about it is it does allow you to say, dump my podcast over on this other drive.
Yep. You have
which Apple does not do.
Yeah, full control. So check that out. He's very receptive to emails and very responsive. So check it out. And no need to talk about more. You can go listen to the other episode and you can find all about that app. So, other thing I just wanted to talk a little bit with you, Mike, is MaxTalk. A little bit anyway. Wanted to hear, we're at post MaxTalk here for over a couple weeks now, and you got the digital pass. I am assuming is coming soon. I'm sure everybody's going to be pretty excited to when that's ready. I know that's a lot of work, and you probably have a lot more work to do to get that ready to go. I wanted to kind of hear how that things are going with that.
That is going really, really well. I've been working on that all week. I was working on it earlier today, all day yesterday, the day before. It does take a little while to get those ready. But part of it is because I just want to go through, as you know, Dave, or anyone who's been to MaxTalk knows, we have a volunteer at a table who's manning the process, basically serving as director for the day, and doing the camera switching, and that becomes a program feed. That's the master program feed. And I was just going to say our volunteer this year was Guy Searle from mymac.com. Yes. Mm-hmm. And he did a wonderful job of it. The thing I like about the system I use, which is the Sling Studio, is that in addition to that program feed that Guy was essentially serving as director for, it also records the individual feeds separately. So in an event, or in an instance, I should say, where perhaps our director stuck a little too long on the slide, or maybe there was some information on the slide that didn't make it to the program because we were focused on the presenter, I can go back to the original feeds, the separate feeds, pull in just what I need, and do the edit. So what takes the longest about this is going through and actually watching the entire talks all the way through to make sure that they flow well. And I would say about 95% of what I've watched so far, it's been great. Guy did a phenomenal job at it.
Awesome.
A couple times I've had to go through and just kind of say, well, let's take that slide from the presentation and stick it in there for 6 seconds, just so that people can see what Aaron was talking about or what have you.
Sure.
But the big benefit of this, and I've mentioned this on Chuck's show several times in the past years, is, and this is a selfish benefit, is that I get to actually hear the talks all the way through.
Yeah,
which is something I don't get to do at MaxTalk. So I get to hear the talks all the way through, and I will tell you that our first 3 talks of the weekend, the day one of MaxTalk, the talks were awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely awesome. And I can't wait for everyone to be able to watch them again. Everyone who attended has a digital pass. Anyone who donated their ticket to the MaxTalk Community Fund has a digital pass. So there's a lot of folks out there already who can benefit from these. And I expect to have day one completed probably by the end of day tomorrow. Certainly by Saturday, I'll have them done.
Nice.
And then I'll put out notice that day one's ready, and I'll start working on day two and get those out there. But
you only got 2 speakers for day 2, so I think you might be okay with day 2.
2 speakers for day 2. One of them was this guy Dave Ginsburg. I don't even know. Yeah. I don't even know if day 2 is going to be worth listening to, quite frankly.
I beg to differ, since all the people that did come up to me afterwards, my friend.
No, we have actually 2. Yeah. You know, we had Dave on day 2, and we had Mike Schmitz, and 2 long-term, wonderful presenters. Both do a great job every time. And Dave is always inundated with questions every time his talks end, which just goes to tell you how well they relate to the people in attendance. Right. So yeah, I expect day 2 is going to be just as amazing. Day 1 was all new speakers to MaxTalk. Yeah, all true. 3 were brand new presenters to MaxTalk.
Mike Jay,
and yeah. Aaron. Yeah, great. It was a great weekend. It was a great weekend.
We had a lot of fun. Yeah. So I have a link in the show notes for those who didn't attend, who are interested in getting the digital pass. It's $99, which is a bargain for all the great information you're going to get, and plus all the other stuff that was part of it, not just the speakers. And click that link and purchase that digital pass, and you'll enjoy some of these great presentations out there. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that while you were here, Mike. If you have anything else you wanted to add.
I appreciate that. And I should also point out, too, that if you are brand new to MaxTalk and you've never attended, didn't attend any of the virtual MaxTalks the past 2 years, 2020 and 2021's virtual MaxTalk presentations are included with the MaxTalk 6 digital pass.
Awesome.
Nice.
So those were previously only available separate. I got rid of those digital passes. And so if you want 2020, 2021, or MaxTalk 6, they're all bundled together into one digital pass.
Good idea. Great.
That seems really generous.
That's very generous. All right. So go check it out. Links in the show notes. And let's go ahead and move on.
Dave.
You're welcome. Let's move on to the topics this week. We talk about beta. That's all we do every week. And there's always something going on with beta on iOS and iPadOS. iOS 16 Beta 5 has come out this week. That came out for the developers. I think a lot of the discussion has been about the battery and
holy crap.
I mean, there's been so much chatter about that, and a lot of focus on some of the customized focus filters, some editing, improved editing in iMessage, but. Like I said, yeah, the battery has been like the biggest discussion across everybody, complaining about the fact that the updated battery icon that with Face ID displays the specific battery percentage instead of just a visual representation of the battery level, which I've been fine with, and especially the fact that the notch is there. So on the iPhone, it's you're not going to see it unless you go into the control center, then you see it. So they've made some space, and I don't it'd be interesting to see how they do this on. I have the iPhone 13 Pro Max here, with the notch. Well, they're going to shrink it down. I don't, of course, put beta on my primary device. We'll let Warren answer that the next time he's on to tell us what he sees. But yeah, this has been the craziest thing that's going to be. They are saying with the battery that it is going to work, of course, with the iPhone 13, iPhone 12, with the exception of the mini. So both the 12 mini and the 13 mini, this will not work. Well, duh, because it's too small. They're not going to have enough screen real estate to be able to expand it. It will be available on the iPhone 11 and of all models. And then the 10s, the 10s Max, and the iPhone 10. I think they said the 10R is not going to have it. If I'm not mistaken, it doesn't say it in this article, but
I thought I read that it was.
Is it going to be now? So maybe they changed it.
And I paid attention to that because we do have a 10R in the family.
Yeah, and I've got this camera I'm looking at right now is a 10R, so I guess I will find out. Go But
My understanding, Dave, is that they're not going to use any more screen real estate for this. They're not going to put the percentage next to the battery as they
don't
used
think
to.
so.
The number is going to be within the icon itself. And so the controversy that I read, and again, I don't put beta on my phone either,
Right.
but the controversy that I read, I'm putting that in air quotes for anyone listening to this. The controversy I read was that the battery icon does not continue to show the levels. It doesn't reflect the levels within the icon itself.
Mhm.
It's a solid battery icon with the numbers in the center.
Yeah, I don't know if they had a picture of it.
And that's the controversy.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, yeah. In the article from Mac Rumors, I see. It's got, there's a battery. It's got the full background in it and just says 80.
Yeah. Now, I should probably emphasize from everything I've read, this is optional. You don't have to turn this on.
Turn
it's
off.
not on all the time. It's a toggle. If you don't like it, toggle it off.
I kind of like
Go
it. I
back
don't
to
mind
the
it.
old way.
So it has the number
fine.
instead of the shrinking down of how much battery is left in.
How much did we all hate it when they got rid of it?
Yeah.
Now they're bringing it back and we all hate it. Come on.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
So
well, and they didn't even like completely get rid of it because, like Dave said, swipe down, control center, and you see the percentage.
Yeah,
there you
and
go.
you know, and when I got whatever my first iPhone model was that had the notch, what was that? Was that the 10? Where the notch was introduced? It all bleeds together after a while.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see the percentage by the battery unless I swiped down. That was a problem for me for like 10 seconds, maybe.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say it was a problem, it was one of those things where my brain was questioning why it couldn't see something it was used to seeing. And I did a swipe down, and then my brain built some new neural pathways, and it's been fine. And holy crap, why is this even news?
Exactly.
Anything that saves me a little bit of time, and that is if I don't have to swipe down to see I'm at 68% or 33% or whatever, if I don't have to, that saves me a little bit of time. I'm all for it. I don't care what the icon looks like. It's fine.
Yeah.
I did, like you, Jeff, I got used to it. So you pull down, you see it, great. But that's an extra step. If I can avoid that, cool.
Yeah, for me, the way it has worked since the change happened when the notch was introduced, seeing the battery icon with its little decreasing amount of battery. Okay, all I cared about was, am I looking at a little icon where it looks like there's more or less than half the charge left? And if it's less than half the charge, okay, now, depending what I'm doing, I might want to swipe down and get the numeric value for that so I can decide if I need to find a way to get some more juice in the phone now or later.
Yep.
I agree. Then watchOS 9, nothing really to report. That's been pretty much standard. But interestingly enough, tvOS 16 has some notable things that have been added here. The fifth beta came out this week for testing purposes. It's been a week since the previous beta. It is enabling cross-device connectivity, a feature that's going to allow developers to integrate Apple TV apps with the iPhone and the iPad and the Apple Watch apps to unlock new experiences on the TV. Apple has also improved how multiple user profiles work in tvOS because it's gosh awful right now. And adding a shared keychain so users won't have to have the need to sign in and choose their profiles when launching the Apple TV app.
Finally.
Game controller support is going to be expanded to the Nintendo Joy-Cons and the Pro Controller, and HDR 10 Plus support is available in the Apple TV app. With tvOS 16, the Apple TV will support Matter, which is an upcoming standard that will improve interoperability between smart home accessories and from different companies. Hallelujah to that too. So, and of course they did also see it in another version of the HomePod 16 software, which, yeah, I'm going to completely avoid that until it's out, because HomePod has, as Jeff knows, HomePod has its challenges.
Well, here's what I want to know. now that Hulu is raising their prices again,
So is
and
Disney
they're
Plus.
losing NBC shows, and they're losing the NBC shows starting next month. Now that that's all happening, when will Apple start offering live TV?
Good question. They're already dabbling in it now with baseball, and then and all the other stuff that's been happening. So yeah, I have a feeling you're probably right. And this device is going to
need
expand
consistent,
even further.
and we need cost effective. That's what we need.
Just like we talked,
stick antennas back on our roofs.
Yeah. Just like we talked, the last time they've updated the Apple TV was in 2021, so it's been well over a year. Which was, and before that it was 4 years, so they really hadn't been doing much. So, but there's rumors that there's potentially going to be another device coming out, maybe an affordable one. So I think it's got a bright future. I mean, we've talked about it many times. The services are just continuing to be a very profitable thing for Apple, and I'm excited to see what more live content they're going to offer here. So
perhaps they can just buy Philo or Fubo and
just take one of those. Maybe
just take one of those and
just take it.
You just roll it.
It's Apple Philo.
All right, another topic.
Sorry, Philo. Sorry,
no,
I didn't mean to imply you need to be bought out.
No, that's okay. I wanted to talk about Apple Watch a little bit here. We had an interesting discussion on Mac Voices Live, and if you want to go back and listen to it, Chuck Joyner shared a personal story about one of his relatives that were not relatives. One of his girlfriend had a bit of an issue with falling, and the fall detection feature that's on the Apple Watch. What I wanted to do is more focus on the fact of making sure you understand how to set it up, because I can't emphasize more. And in fact, I even talked to a coworker about this, and she was very excited about, I don't know if I have that turned on or not, because people don't know when they go into the Apple Watch and make sure that it's turned on. So I've got support articles here from Apple that are in the show notes here. And what you have to do is on your Apple Watch, you go into the SOS, emergency SOS app that you see there, and go to fall detection, and then you turn on fall detection. You also can go into the Apple Watch app on your iPhone and go into there as well and turn it on. But you want to make sure that's turned on, because it's so important. One of the things that Chuck had mentioned that it does do is, of course, you put in your emergency contact, usually like a spouse or friend or whoever you want to trust, and when you do fall, and it's got to be a pretty good fall for it to sense it, because I've fallen a few times and it never went off, and I've had it on the whole time, and shouldn't admit that I have, but it is what it is. But this is when you get the Apple Watch for the first time, and anybody that's 55 and older, it's automatically turned on. So when you put your health information in there, you put, me too. And we're all teary eyed. I make sure that we're all teary eyed here. So it is important to make sure that's turned on, and it'll save your life. As I was saying, he mentioned that not only does it call you the emergency contact, it also is going to send you the information of a map of where that person's located. So you'll see that where that person's moving to or where they're going. So probably you want to be able to see, well, not probably, you want to see if they're going to the hospital, or are they going somewhere else, and it'll continue to do that until you turn it off. So it's just incredible. I mean, we talked about so much about all the emergency things that have happened with, even with the AFib feature with Apple Watch, and this is just, it's just pretty phenomenal. What you can do with an Apple Watch. And so we got two links in the show notes: the support article that's actually the Apple Watch user guide, which is always good to have a link for anyway. And then Apple Insider wrote an article here that talks a little bit about this as well. So I think it's so important. Jeff, you have any thoughts about this?
Yep, I am completely with you on this. As a matter of fact, even though I checked all of my settings to make sure everything is still set up the way I expected after Chuck was talking about this, I just went and did it again while you were talking, just to really, really make sure.
Right.
And my emergency contact is set up. My fall detection is turned on. I've had two incidents where fall detection was legitimately triggered. And in both cases, I was fine. But in one case, I was out skiing and took my skis off. And as I'm walking into the lodge, which had an incredibly icy deck, I went down hard on my back.
I've done that.
I mean, hard. And if I hadn't been wearing my helmet still, I probably would have been in the hospital. But I hit the deck hard enough that I heard one person scream, and it wasn't me. And a couple other people were going, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And yeah, I was. But I was fine. Yeah, I was fine. The other incident, I was with friends, and someone said, "Here, ride this little kick scooter thing. It'll be fun." And it was all the way up until I got going too fast and hit the curb and went flying off of it. And luckily landed in grass and had little more to show for it than bruises and a dent to my ego. But both times my Apple Watch did exactly what it was supposed to. It detected the fall and alerted me that if I didn't tell it I was okay, it was going to call 911 and let my emergency contact know where I was.
Yep, that's what it did.
And it was great. I felt really good about the fact that my watch did exactly what it should.
And when you go into the emergency SOS setting in the Apple Watch app on your iPhone, for fall detection, of course, turn it on. But you have two choices there. You can have it always on, which I would recommend always to keep it on.
Yeah, just leave it on.
Some people may not want that, but you also could set it only during workouts. So maybe they're thinking if you work out, then you end up falling. Maybe that'd be a place to do it. But I think always on should be default, in my opinion.
I agree, because you never know when that stupid fall is going to happen.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I have a story I'm questioning whether I should relate or not.
Okay, then you're committed. Relate.
I guess I'm committed, so I'm going to try to do this in as a family-friendly way as I can.
I don't need
to believe. It's a story I heard. I just heard it this week. Friend of the family. I swear, no immediate family members were involved in this. This was a third-party friend of the family story related to me. So I will no doubt get some of the details wrong. However, there's a woman who was with her boyfriend in the throes of passion, forgot to take her Apple Watch off. And at one point, the Apple Watch detected a fall incorrectly. Sent a message. She didn't see the message.
In her defense,
apparently it sent another. She was preoccupied. That's a nice way to put it. And apparently it sends another message. Does it do that? I don't know. But when there was no response to the messages, they alerted emergency services.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And emergency services showed up at the house. And it was then that they realized what happened, and she had to explain to the EMTs that no, she really hadn't fallen. There was something else going on, and she had forgotten to take off her Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And there were high fives all around.
And there were high fives all around.
Yeah, the EMTs were probably high-fiving each other.
That is probably one situation during which you may want to take off your Apple Watch and or turn off fall detection.
And more take it off.
That's just me. That's just me based on this story. But,
I'm
did I
thinking,
keep that clean enough for your show?
I'm thinking I went to leave my watch on when those opportunities arise. For just in case, so I can tell people, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened.
What happened to me?
Oh, I thought you were going to say to complete your calorie rings or something.
Well, I have made jokes to people about we need to have a separate workout for booty time so that we get proper points for that workout.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep.
So I thought we had that on Mac Voices Live earlier this week, and as we record, and I thought it was important that I reiterated it more so to talk about how to turn it on and to please make sure it's turned on. I think it's so important.
Good call. Thank you for bringing
My
that
story,
up.
regardless, the importance of leaving it
And
on should not be understated.
Don't wear your watch when you have some unusual activity.
Unless you find yourself performing those activities in such a way that a fall could happen, in which case you might want to leave your watch on.
That's a good point. That's a good follow-up to my story, Jeff. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. And
I've got your back.
You always do.
Dave says, moving on.
No. I thought we were done. But let's go to the next story here. If anybody isn't aware, I know all of us here are big fans of 1Password, and of course we know 1Password came out with their Electron app, and they're made everything universal. We had lots of deep conversation about that topic, but the Mac app has been out for a while, but now they finally have released the version for iOS and iPadOS this week as we record. AgileBits did confirm that the 1Password 7 app will still be supported, and you can have both versions installed on your devices. Now you can't go out. Well, you kind of can. You have to go to an indirect way. Go to their website and then click the link to be able to download 1Password 7. The biggest thing, the reason why I think that they've got a lot of unhappy people right now is the standalone vault is no longer supported in 1Password 8. So for those of you who just paid for the app and didn't go with the subscription, you're going to be out of luck with 1Password 8. Sounds like for now that 1Password is going to continue to support 7, because there are people who want to, they don't want to pay a subscription. I happily do it because I think it's I think they have a great thing with the family teams and even the individual plans. And I don't have a problem. 1Password is a very secured application. I don't have any issues with that. So, so I went on to Twitter. I just wanted to verify with them. I said, okay, so you're going to let people keep both versions of this app on your device? And they said, yes, that's what we want to do. And if you feel like you're ready to move on and just go with 1Password 8, then you can safely delete 1Password 7. So I think that's fine if you so choose to do that. You just got to be careful, especially with the autofill that turning on. You're going to have 2 versions of an app that can do autofill, including the keychain. So now you'll have 3. So that's a little overkill, but just I think that's actually a good thing, because it's going to let you be able to transition over your vault and make sure that everything works properly before you move on. Because that's what a lot of developers do. They said, okay, got an update. This is an upgrade. See you later. You got to move if you want to upgrade. So interesting way to do this. I didn't think they would do something like this, but they did. So, Jeff, you have thoughts?
I'm not surprised they did it this way at all.
Yeah.
The companies that get how their customers are using their products and are listening to the customers and appreciate what's involved in the transition from perpetual license to subscription model, they're doing exactly what AgileBits is doing here. And they leave the old version available, support it for a while, but at some point they'll stop supporting it. That doesn't mean it'll stop working, and it doesn't mean they will actively do something to break that version. It'll just keep working until something happens at the operating system level that makes it not usable anymore. And then at that point, you have to decide what you're going to do. So yeah, companies like AgileBits doing exactly what they're doing here.
Yeah.
Great. They're doing it the right way. Good for them. The only issue that I had was that I didn't realize until we started talking about this that I hadn't actually installed 1Password 8 on my iPhone, because when I saw my software updates earlier this week and 1Password was in there, in my mind, I thought I was getting 1Password 8 when I tapped the update button.
Just there was a fix for 7.6. Was it 7.9?
Yeah, and it was a fix for 7, and so I need to go download the new version, which the fact that I didn't realize says a lot about how transparent 1Password is on my iPhone, because I don't have to go into the app that often to do the things that I need to do. So I didn't realize that I would have known had I seen the different interface or the old interface, that I wasn't running the new version.
Right. You have thoughts, Mike?
No, I have the standalone version of it. I don't have the subscription. I have a family license for it, and they are. You're right, Jeff. They are doing everything right. They've given us plenty of notice. It's not like this is sprung upon us. We've known for 2 years.
Right.
It feels like, maybe even longer, that this was coming. They're offering upgrade discounts for single user plans if you want to go to the subscription. And look, if you really don't agree with it, there are plenty of alternatives. There's plenty of very good alternatives out there that are cross-platform, open source. Some are closed source, and most of them will import your 1Password vaults. So not all of them, but most of them will. So there are options, and there's a lot of very good options, but 1Password just happens to be one of those excellent choices. Yep. And it, almost every one of these alternatives requires a subscription. And when you look at the cost of the subscription, guess what? It's about the same as 1Password. We know 1Password is great. Why not stick with it?
Absolutely. Oh, I've been a wholehearted supporter of 1Password. I have no problems paying the subscription. And in my case, been very happy with it. And in fact, I got to get better at it because, got to improve my password security and not repeat my passwords, and I try not to. But
Dave, I'll just point out that 1Password is really good at helping you solve that problem.
They really do. They do. Yep. And
they're very good at that.
It's that thing is I like to memorize my password. And that's the bad problem is when you go to a site and I'm not at a place where I can use my 1Password app to get to it. So I got to do
that.
Better.
Sounds like a Dave problem.
That's a Dave problem.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, because you can use 1Password everywhere.
Yes, you can.
Even when it's not installed.
That is true. But so
the worst passwords are those you can memorize.
Yeah, but I do use some pretty complex ones. So, but you're right. If you keep repeating them, it's gonna get yourself in trouble. So that's rule of thumb. Use 1Password. They have a password suggester, and you can just put it right in and not even have to think about it. So check that out. 1Password 8 is you can download it. 1Password 7 will still stay on your device, and for now, if you want to continue on using it, especially if you have a standalone vault and not subscription, and we'll go from there. Last topic I want to talk about this week. Again, the Washington Post has been. I caught two things caught my eye this past week, and this one here is interesting. It's talking about gadget graveyards, and they found the hidden death dates on popular devices. This was a pretty popular discussion this past week. So interesting. They have a list here and ask, what happens if your gadget no longer holds a charge? What happens if when they do? Unfortunately, many of them are simply designed to die. And they go through a list here and analyze some of the consumer electronics that are here. It's interesting to see, like a case of the Fire HD 8 tablet. They're saying 2 to 3 years that the battery could die, and Amazon offers no battery replacement service. And attempting to repair it yourself is moderately difficult. You'd think iFixit probably has something to do, but they say it's very difficult to do. And there's a lot of things here. And of course, they had to have a disclaimer here because Amazon founder Jeff Bezos does own the Washington Post, so they have to keep their editorial proper here. Apple AirPods designed to die. It could die as soon as 2 years. I've had mine that are in my ears right now since 2019, so I had them since they came out. They've been great. We've talked about on the show before those swap services that are out there. And I did do that with my AirPods, my first gen AirPods. And basically what they do is you send them the old ones, they send you new ones, and they swap out, and they swap them out. So, and they're not too terribly expensive. But Apple's battery, quote unquote, battery service, they'll sell you a new one, but it's $49 per bud. So extremely difficult to replace, but like it mentions, swap clubs will send you refurbished, like I just mentioned here. So, and we know the iPhone and the MacBook Air, and those are easily repairs and easy to be repaired. The Bose QC35 noise canceling headphones. I have a pair sitting right next to me here. And I've had it probably, the QC35 probably came out about 4 or 5 years ago. It's still going strong, knock on wood. Says you get about 500 cycles for 80% capacity, but it's still been running really well for me. But they offer no warranty battery replacement service on that. It's near impossible to replace the battery. So, Bose does say a typical user would see a 20% degradation between 5 and 9 years. So, and we can go on and on. There's so many other devices that are listed in here. But just check that out. Even if it has the Tesla in here, designed to be repaired. Well, I would hope so, for as much money you pay for a Tesla. But the other one that was super interesting, and I know necessarily that we print things on our we print things on our from our iOS devices. This was on a blog here, Fight to Repair, on a Substack here, citing the danger of ink spills. Epson programs end of life for some printers. There are plenty of functioning Epson inkjet printers out there that could continue to work for years to come. And the important product update is you're effed. So turns out what Epson does, they've had hard coded an end of life into the software that runs the inkjet printer that you buy. This is a predetermined end of life, and it's not a feature of the device explained to you when you purchase the printer. But it doesn't matter, because that's what Epson does. They don't want you to keep this printer anymore. They don't want to continue to support it anymore. So they think they have the right to do it as an end of life. And funny enough, they do have a Windows version of software where you can change because the waste ink pad is really where it is on printers, where that pad gets filled up, and then you can't get to it, you can't replace it, but they have some software that'll do that. Of course, it doesn't work on a Mac, so what's good for us? Not. So there are some printers that are designed to stop operating, and so this is kind of frustrating. But there's of course someone had to be out there to do this, and you can't even get the part, so you have to improvise and come up with a new sponge. So the guy in here goes and actually replaces the pads in there with some sponge that he found. That
was awesome.
I watched that
video. That was great.
Oh, did you? Okay. And you just have to go in and reset the counter so it'll continue to print. And I guess you can on this. So, question is this legal? Is it illegal that Epson is doing this? And I guess it's unclearly, but it's possible that I don't think they should be doing this. I mean, you have every right to keep your printer for as long as you want, as long as it continues to work. I mean, I support a lot of these inkjet printers and office jet printers, and it's a constant battle. HP is just as bad. I haven't seen them do this, but I mean, I actually have an Epson workforce printer sitting next to me over here. So, and it continues to work okay. But I don't know. I don't think this is fair. If someone wants to hold on to a printer for as long as they can, as long as it isn't in disrepair, a lot of times the print heads fail out. You can't replace them. Something breaks. Anything could happen. I find this is kind of frustrating in the case of Epson here and doing this. What do you guys think?
Well, I look at this piece of news in a couple different ways. First, it's actually in contrast to what the Washington Post article has, and the Washington Post article to me is disingenuous because it talks about the products designed to die.
Yeah.
AirPods and a Fire tablet are not designed to die. They're just not a repairable product.
Right.
There's a difference. A product where you have built into the code an automatic bricking of the device, that's designed to die.
Yep.
And regardless of whether or not this is a legal practice, it's not a moral practice. And I mean, yes, the reality is when you buy an inkjet printer, you are essentially buying a disposable device that's sole purpose from the manufacturer's standpoint is to sell you ink.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I understand what goes into the development, the entire process of creating these inks. And I think they're way overpriced. But at the same time, I appreciate there's actually a lot of money that goes into designing ink formulas, and they're not all the same. And there's a lot of science that goes into making the right kind of ink for a specific print head on a specific device and all that. But Epson don't do this. This is not how you build a good customer experience. This is not how you create loyal customers that come back and buy their next printer from you when the one they're using finally dies, because the way it's dying is that you bricked it on them.
Yeah.
You know, what's really interesting about this is that, ironically, this appears to apply only to their EcoTank printers.
Yeah.
According to the article. The EcoTanks are designed, they're designed to use giant tanks of ink off to the side so you don't have to buy cartridges.
It lasts
so
like
that you
2
just
years.
refill the tanks.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the point of it, is to extend the life of the printer and not have to mess around with ink cartridges. And yet, when this waste tank fills, they've designed it to stop working and not make the waste tank easily replaceable. Now,
that's just salt in the wound right there.
It's salt in the wound.
Yeah,
now, if the video didn't go into it, the video that Dave was referencing was someone who removed the EcoTank holder from the side and made his way into the printer to get to this waste tank, took out the old pads, put new cotton batting and foam in it, and then said, now the printer's working again. What the video didn't explain is, did he have to run this software to reset the counter? Because as Dave pointed out, there is Windows software to reset the counter. Did he have to run that software? Or by virtue of the tanks being cleaned out and reset physically, did that tell the printer, hey, this waste tank isn't full, you can use it again? That's something I'd be curious about, because if that's the case, Epson could very well make, on an EcoTank printer, mind you, make that waste tank easily accessible and replaceable if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
my guess is that he had to run the utility.
Yeah.
And
that's
and I
my
did
guess.
Notice in the utility description in the article, it said that it resets it for a short period of time. So it's not like you get the same life out of the reset waste ink tank that you got when you first bought the printer. And you can only run the utility once. Maybe.
There was a little contradiction in the article there. I read that same line and went, oh, great. So you get what, another 10%? Yeah. But then down beneath, it says you can reset the counter from 100% to 0%. Well, then that implies you get a do-over. So it's unclear. It's unclear. And I blame the article writer for that. But I would be interested. Look, we're Mac users. We don't have a utility. We can run Windows. We can run the utility. We can reset the printer, or we can bring it to a friend. Phone a friend, hook the printer up to their computer and reset it. So it's not like it's out of our reach as Mac users. It is, I guess it's nice that they provide this utility.
It would be nicer if you didn't even need it.
be nicer if you didn't have to use it. Exactly.
Yeah. So thought it was an interesting topic, and it definitely is. We have to expect that gadgets are going to run out of steam and stop working sooner or later. Some people like to keep them for a long time. Others, when it dies, you move on to something new. So, but it was a interesting discussion for this week on that. So, with that, let's go ahead and wrap things up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a Patreon of the show. Tom W. this week has became a new Patreon. Really appreciate you joining us and supporting the show this week. And the way you can others can support the show is by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios. We have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you are notified when we are live streaming, which is Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, at our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch and listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link's in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show in your favorite podcatcher, including Mimir, which we're always going to be talking that now. And I also like podcasts. You can use that as well. Apple Podcasts, or there's many others. But but better yet, go to
Apple Podcasts.
Better yet, go to our website at intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter at DaveG65. Mike Potter, thanks so much for being here. It's always a great thrill to have you on the show. Where can people find you?
Thank you for having me, Dave. It has been a blast. Folks can find me at formaceyesonly.com or at formaceyesonly on Twitter, or max.conference. Thank you, Dave, for mentioning that earlier, which is max.conference and expo.com, or at max.expo on Twitter. Thanks, Dave.
Great, thank you. And Jeff Gamet, as always, it's always a great time to have you here on the show. Where can people find you?
It's always fun, and I'm happy to be here. People can find me on Twitter and Instagram, jgamet, both places. youtube.com/jgamet for my occasional videos. Most Tuesdays on Mac Voices Live with you, Dave, and Chuck. And Thursdays on The Big Show. Fridays on The Mac Show. And most Thursdays here with you. Did I already say In Touch with iOS?
I think you did.
It's so important. I'm saying it twice.
It's all right.
And then Brian Chaffin and I have teamed up for the Context Machine. So there's plenty of places to find me. And as always, Dave, it's great to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. We really appreciate you listening to the show. We enjoy doing it. And we'll talk again next time.